Since the 1920s, Shanghai was known as the Eastern Hollywood due to the found of Mingxi Film Company in 1922, which represented a flourishing film industry since then. Productions and aesthetic characteristics of Shanghai film studios were affected by the Western cultures and concession civilization. Citizens from all walks of life had a lot of chances to work in this metropolitan city, and they contributed efforts to the city constructions and in economic and cultural fields.
Empire, but of the British Empire. The Chinese would not have built a city this way. The history of modern Shanghai was written in the logs and ledgers of
Audiences observe that Shanghai grows as one of the distinctive groups that reflect regional urban characteristics, as well as interacting with the impact of city surroundings. Therefore, after the appreciating typical movies due to the 1920s to the 2000s, female, finery, linguistic variance, and leisure entertainment became three important symbols of Shanghai material and spiritual civilization. The movies in the first period began during the Republic of China period, when Western culture had great influences on China. Women began to place more values on fashion and lifestyles. Also, the spread of bourgeoisie idea ensures the class struggle and human rights in daily life. In the beginning of the film Angels on the Road, a woman's wedding invites not only Chinese traditional wedding band, but also Western bands, playing Western instruments. The bride wears a Western-style bridal headpiece rather than Chinese traditional red ornaments. Western instruments were popular at that time in normal people's everyday life. We can see that women at that time places more values on appearance. They wore fancy qipao with twist bangs up with a little gel and secured with flower pins. And some of them curled their hair using a pair of fire tongs. What's more, the aesthetic orientation at the time is also clear in the films, in which women had their own taste in clothing and purchased fashionable cloth in order to make qipao. In the film, the singer Xiaohong sings a song in Southern accent, to be more specific, in sweet, rich as well as guttural Shanghainese style Mandarin. This is a great example of old Shanghainese song, as well as a symbol of modernization, aiming at promoting a unified language in China since it is in Mandarin rather than pure Shanghainese dialect. However, women are exploited by the upper class. A close-up shot of the sister of Xiaohong, who is dying, shows how painful and helpless she is, although she is rescued by her friends. Since patriarchal oppressors aim to form a society where the poor lower classes are victimized by the rich, and especially the rich men, as they did not respect women's rights and women were portrayed as their target to entertain. Xiao Yun in the film was bullied by the rich man and died from loss of blood. The scene is very impressive because it depicts the world where women were oppressed and looked down upon. At the beginning of the time, they searched for help and began to realize their value and then stimulated by modernized thoughts. The period after the anti-Japanese War was a time of hardship and struggle for every class structure. Inflation and economic difficulties were depicted in the movie Thousand Lights vividly. During 1940s and 1950s, women's clothing was much more plain and simple in terms of colors and textures, and there were 3 different social classes represented by 3 different women. The woman who belongs to the high social class dressed in a Western-style bathrobe at home, and wears fancy fur coat with high heels appearing in public. Women who belonged to the bureaucratic class were always dressed in traditional Shanghainese qipao. They were not in any way fancy or modern. Instead, they were plain and simple in a darker shade of color. The third group of female were the peasants. When the peasants' grandma showed up, they were dressed in rough clothing carrying hays on their back. The different types of clothing worn by different female characters represent an obvious distinction in class status. Near the opening of the scene, there was also a wedding photo hanging on the wall that depicts both couples dressed in a Western-style wedding clothing in black and white instead of the traditional Chinese wedding clothing. Furthermore, in this business scene, the officeman used a mix of Cantonese words and English words in combination to produce his speech. The boss of the company speaking fluently in English when dealing business matters. This also indicates his higher education level and social position in society. The founding of People's Republic of China in 1949 gave rise to a period of cultural as well as communistic revolution. Women's rights and equality between men and women were highly promoted by the newly founded government. As a result of a massive campaign to speed up economic growth in China, women were encouraged to join the labor force, especially in the agriculture sector. Women were portrayed as model workers that followed the communist aspiration, in which they are used as a propaganda to further promote the patriotism. When faced with unfair treatments of people that are unfaithful to the communist aspiration, they stood up against these people. The role of women also expanded, as they are no longer bounded to doing only housework. Their wages from working in the fields or the factories became an important source of income to their families. During this period of cultural innovations, the clothing pieces of Chinese women were also quite different from the past few decades. Instead of wearing traditional qipao, Zhongshan suit, also known as the Mao suit, and the linen coat were the trend during the time. In fact, around mid-1960s, traditional clothing such as qipao and long hair were doubted by the Red Guards as they were the representation of the bourgeoisie lifestyle. This led to women wearing mostly clothes that resembled working clothes and kept their hair short. Functionality and durability of the clothes was far more important than the color looks of the clothes. Furthermore, clothes that were simple and patched were most admired by women during that time. Clothing were desexualized, which means that women were styled in similar fashion to men. During the 1980s to the 1990s, the ideological emancipation for youth ensured the new women fashion in Shanghai. The majority of women started perming hair and wearing hair accessories. In this reform and opening period, the fabric, texture, design, and colors of costumes have changed diversely, such as the fashion officer staff's argyle design and casual multi-floor silk dress. Women wore different styles of clothes in distinctive occasions. Usually in the films, the camera lens moved gradually from long shot, medium shot, and finally close up to reveal women's overall and detailed fashion. Audiences could feel that girls pay attention to the whole match in color assortment with clothes, bags, heels, and other accessories. For instance, when girls hang out together on day offs, they wear various bright color shirts with the maxi or plaid shirt. Meanwhile, for sport purposes, they are a group of girls that wear short pants and one-colored t-shirts. On work days, girls always wear working uniforms. For example, in the movie Youngsters, women wear two pieces of clothes in the Shanghai public bus transport factory. One is the inner white shirt and the other one is the outer light yellow jacket. Additionally, we distinguish female social generations through their dressing. The color between what mother and daughter wear is dramatically different, which the mothers wear earthy yellow or white and the young girls wear light pink shirts at home. The nagging mother always chatters about how to find an ideal son-in-law with great moral and physical qualities. Secondly, this period popularized epochal catchphrases in Shanghai. For instance, the first time that Yu Jie went to the factory to report herself, she received impolite treatment from the director without tolerance and obedience from man. She called that man geezer to defend herself. Her personality reflects that forthright modern Shanghai girl have the sense towards gender equality. Female workers usually hate to do greetings. They also use the word hell to deliver facial tones. Those modern language phenomena reveal the comfortable and close connection between colleagues. Thus, in Shanghai, the harmonious working atmosphere ensured the increasing process of modern social transformations. Also, when the woman tests her loudspeaker, her pronunciation is really standard. It reveals the popularization of Mandarin in Shanghai's service industry. Lastly, females' entertainment reflects the public preferences and growing living quality. All the staffs from the public bus transport factory would have the chance to watch movies in the finery theater. Specifically, there exists a medium shot to highlight the conversation between two female workers. Basically, they're talking about the theater seats of the movie called Future World. Instead of the nightclub, common girls could dance with men in the square without suffering the critique of chaste virtue. They could deliver their emotions in public space. It reflects the promotion of women's social status. Moreover, there are two girls eating snack near the park. It reveals the Shanghai food culture of the street stalls and the actual localization toward girls' selection of food, preference, and their eating habits. In the sports field, there are several girls entertaining themselves by playing badminton in the public park, so this kind of sport is popular in Shanghai. Similarly, in the Happy Bachelors, Yu Jie and her friend also plays badminton during their leisure time. Compared to previous periods, audiences will notice significant changes in Shanghai women's internal and external characteristics in 21st century. The film Go Lala Go 2 sets in Shanghai. Lala, the protagonist, is a young woman who represents a typical generation in late 20s and early 30s. Lala works in a world-leading company. Her working place implies upward tendency of Shanghai women as a career woman. She gave a presentation confidently in front of her coworkers and fluently speaks English. Her outfit symbolizes a successful career woman. The camera takes shot of a colorful fashion set of models in a medium long shot while making a slow motion shot. The film highlights on fancy and luxury fashion of a young woman in detail. At the last scene shows the club party celebrating the SC Group company in Shanghai, where women can dance free and dress freely. It shows Shanghai women's fancy dresses and their late modern Shanghai lifestyles. Ultimately, the city and Shanghai girl symbolize the modern transition and modernism as one of the distinctive groups and distinctive culture. Shanghai young girls and women have expressed individual transition of female finery, the modern characteristics of linguistic variance, and social idioms, as well as the prevailing lifestyle. By interpreting important gradual symbols of Shanghai material and spiritual civilizations, Shanghai young girls have shown their transformation in geographically and culturally Indeed, they have become an interplay between Shanghai films and Shanghai that results the recognizable icon for both film industry and the cosmopolitan Shanghai.
泰国、新加坡、印度尼西亚，咖喱、肉骨茶、印尼九层塔，做 SPA 放烟花，正桑拿，Coco、Pineapple、Mango、Mango。